Deciding Utah law. In-depth coverage on KSL News Radio.
Good Monday morning to you, Brian and Amanda. We've been broadcasting live all morning from the Utah State Capitol. We're sitting just north of the Senate room where all the senators are going to be gathering today. And we've got Governor Gary Herbert, who is joining us now.
What a delight to have you here, Governor. And I know you have your proposed budget for the legislators, and they have their ideas. And on this first day, do you have hope that we'll get some things done this session?
You know, the number one issue for the legislature is, in fact, the budget. They control every dollar that we spend here. And we've spent a number of months in trying to decide what the best way is to slice up the pie of money. And I think you'll find that they'll come along pretty well close to what we're doing. They'll have their own ideas, maybe their own emphasis in one area or another area. But I expect, like most years, about 85% of what we propose we're going to kind of agree on. So I'm anticipating not any big fights. I anticipate that there'll be maybe a little more emphasis on one area or another area. The number one emphasis for me has been education.
Yeah, I was going to say that's what a lot of people are talking about this year. There's this group that's ready for a ballot initiative if nothing happens here on Capitol Hill. Do you think something will happen on Capitol Hill?
I think something will happen on Capitol Hill. I think, again, that's where we are somewhat together with the legislature. We know there's more money that's needed to fund education. We need to be able to pay our teachers a little bit better to retain and recruit good teachers into the classroom. We're getting good results with the amounts of money we're spending, but we need to have more because we're the fastest growing state in America, and we're by far the fastest growing student population in America. So growth pressures are real. The need to augment in the classroom is real. I think you're going to find a significant emphasis on funding more robustly education.
Now that you see with the election of President Trump changes with health care back in Washington, what do we need to do on a state level then, Governor Herbert, to try and protect the people who have been enrolled in Obamacare?
Well, it's a little bit unclear what's going to happen in Washington, D.C. I just returned from there. I've met with our congressional delegation, every one of them. And although there's been talk about repeal and replace, there is some concern about how quick do you repeal and actually have the repeal implemented, and what do you replace it with? My suggestion to them, along with most of the governors in America, is you got to start block granting the money back to the states and let the states, in fact, develop their own unique programs that will, in fact, align up with their own unique cultures, population, demographics. For example, we're a younger population here in Utah than most other states. In fact, we're the youngest in America. And compared to, say, a Florida, in Ohio or Michigan, where there's senior citizens are more in abundance there, the healthcare needs are different. And so the programs ought to be, in fact, different. So I think you're going to find more emphasis on putting money back into the hands of the states and giving more flexibility to the states to create their own unique programs.
How involved are you going to be as this goes on? Is it just a matter of waiting until March and you see some of these bills, or are you up here like championing some of these things?
We've had a very good relationship with the legislature and the particular specific sponsors of different bills. Bills that we like, we help champion. Bills we don't like, we help change and modify and improve so that we don't have to veto them. Mm-hmm. I'm much more inclined to let's work together and get a bill that I can feel good about rather than have to set up a veto fight, after the session is over. And we've been pretty successful at that. Again, we're all pretty conservative up here. Even the Democrat side of the aisle is pretty conservative, if not moderate. So you'll find that there'll be about 800 or 900 bills introduced. Probably, I'm guessing, about 500 plus will be passed. And of those, 85% of them will pass virtually unanimously.
I know we have to let you go, Governor, but before we do, President Trump this morning said that he is going to find a way to cut 75% of business regulations. Not sure how he's going to do that, but any initial response to that comment?
I think it's high time, it's past time that they ought to look at federal regulations. When I get around the country and talk to the business community, it's not the taxes that they complain about first. It is the overburden of regulations, particularly from the federal level. We are constantly looking at regulation reform in the state and on the state level. Even our local governments are looking at regulation reform. We've repealed or modified 368 regulations since I've been on the job here. That sends a strong message to the marketplace that we're open for business and we want you to be successful. Regulations are important. They ought to level playing fields and they ought to protect the public. If they do those two things, they're probably okay. We found 368 that did nothing but put a drag on the economy, and so we've eliminated and reduced them.
Sounds great.
Yeah, well, we sure
Governor,
appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right,
It's always
thank you.
good to
so
see
much
you.
for
It's going
coming
to be a
up here.
great 45 days in the legislature. I know they're going to handle this very professionally and get the right outcome for us here and the people of Utah.
It's always good to see you. Governor Gary Herbert on our In-Depth at 15 and 45.
KSL News Time just past 8:49.